I wasn't anticipating the route to be this damaged from those rains. All right, what is going on, everybody? Just out on a little cruise today by myself. I found out kind of late last night that I was going to have some free time today from the wife that I wasn't anticipating. So I put out a little feeler on Facebook to some of people I ride with locally, and everybody was kind of tied up, and it was kind of short notice. So we're just out here by ourselves. Jeez. So we've had a little rain yesterday. You may or may not be able to tell by looking at this dirt road, but in weeks past we have had a ton of rain. So we might have some new ruts across roads and stuff like that. But as far as the rain we got yesterday, it was kind of minimal, or at least it was minimal 30 miles south at my house. So we should be in a pretty good traction situation, about as good as you'd expect on gravel roads anyway. Looks like they had some damage here. Tree down. And this is terribly different than what it's normally like. Road's almost washed all the way away right here. So anyway, we're out by ourselves, just going to kind of enjoy the ride. I ain't got no fun topic for you guys today to talk about. Just ramble about whatever comes to mind. I have made some suspension adjustments. So I've been rolling with the same suspension settings pretty much since I bought the bike, which is not quite a year, maybe like 8 months, 10 months, something like that. And I've actually softened up the rebound and compression on the front, because in that amount of time I've never bottomed the front. I've gotten close. I would occasionally, after rides especially, glance at the forks and just see where the dirt line was, and I've never gotten, best I can tell, closer to I've never used the full bottom inch. Now that may end up being ideal, because you don't want to be bottom in the front very often. Oh man, this is a creek running down the road. But I've decided to, if that's worst case scenario, I've decided to soften up one click of compression and one click of rebound. One click's not a big deal. May or may not even be noticeable to some people. I'm not sure if I'll even notice it. Man, if you go back and watch some of my other videos, I'll try to link a video in the description that shows this road, but I mean, you can tell right here, I didn't realize the damage was this bad from this isn't from yesterday's rain. There's the normal road bed, that high spot, and the way it forks back there now, this stream is just running down the road instead of going straight across it back there. I wasn't anticipating the route to be this damaged from those rains. Figured it'd be a little different, but have the actual creek running down the dirt road. Anyway, so we made that suspension adjustment. Again, one click on rebound and compression on the front forks. Is not a lot, it's not drastic, but I don't need drastic. I was pretty happy with the suspension setup, the way it was, but if I haven't bottomed to the front, to the best I can tell, in almost a year's time frame, then it won't hurt to go a click softer. Gotta be a little careful with these roads being this rough, because I run the Acerbis or Acerbis, however you want to pronounce it, plastic skid plate. So I definitely don't want to bash out on a massive rock, or not even massive, it just had to be the size of a baseball or something, and bust through that plastic skid plate. Which I feel like is a great option for dirt roads, but this kind of stuff where the dirt road's washed away to reveal bigger rock is, oh, it's not your typical dirt road anymore. What else? It is 52 degrees today and high of 62. So instead of wearing wintertime gloves, you can see I've got my motocross gloves on, but I'm running liners underneath them. It's a separate pair of gloves designed to be used underneath as a liner, and the back of them's got some kind of, I don't know, woven Kevlar wind block protection, and they were cheap. I got them off Rocky Mountain. I'll post the brand up on the screen because I can't remember what they are, but I got them from Rocky Mountain ATV probably 2 years ago, and just occasionally use them when you find yourself spring and fall between summertime gloves and wintertime gloves. And yeah, they work pretty good for that scenario, days like today. So I think I gave like $5 for them, $4.99, $5.99, something like that. Definitely worth that price. And I always cheap out on my wintertime gloves every single time I replace them. After I wear a set out, I always cheap out, just get like some $30 wintertime gloves. The dexterity on them's not great, so running these glove liners gives you, pretty much the exact same dexterity you'd have in your fingers and hands as you would get from just regular motocross gloves. But you can stand it to, for me, down to about 50. I would say today it's riding on the highway. To get here at highway speeds, that was, my hands weren't freezing, but if it had been any colder, I would have been wishing I'd grabbed my other gloves and just threw these gloves in the saddlebags in case it got warm and I wanted to swap. So down to about 50 degrees, I would say these do the trick. I'm sure there's other brands very similar as well. And it sounds so good going under those tight bridges like that. T7 just, stock muffler, just take the baffle out completely, put the end cap back on. If you cut the baffle out, cut the short little pipe out and put the plate back in with a smaller hole. In my case, there was like a resonance that happened. It didn't sound great. It was actually louder that way. To me, it just didn't, it kind of popped and cracked and didn't sound as smooth. So I ended up doing that to mine. I ended up taking the baffle completely out, just put the end cap back on. sounds so good. 23 models and before you can do that. I think 24 models have a different design muffler. It's a little windy today, and it crosswind kind of caught me there. Which I was already wanting to mention this topic because it happened earlier off camera. I kind of overcooked a corner on one of these dirt roads that's not really that exciting getting here, and I thought to myself, I need to mention that in the video. It's a great skill to have, and I kind of just did the same thing there. But if you're overcooking a corner on dirt, and I'm not talking about if you're drastically, you know, if you don't know the road or you forget where you're at and you just come into a corner running like way too fast. In that scenario, that's a case-by-case basis on what you can do, if there's anything you can do. But if you're just going like 5 to 8 miles an hour quicker into a corner than you want, and you're on dirt or a dirt road, being able to steer with the rear will save you so easily, to the point to where it's like it becomes a non-issue when those little things happen. So instead of just trying to like be gentle with the brake the whole way through the corner and scrub a little speed to make sure you safely make it, scrub what you can, and then as soon as you're getting towards that apex of the corner, just twist it. You know, your ground speed technically you may not even speed up, even though you're giving it throttle, because the goal is to break the rear end loose and slide, steer with the rear. But doing that is so less unnerving than just trying to be gentle on the brakes on a loose surface and kind of, you know, gently scrub speed through a corner that you're going a little quicker than you want. Like I said, it, to a very small degree, it happened after I set that wheelie down, because I was getting blown towards the ditch. So as soon as I set the front wheel down, you know, I gave it some gas and you know, tried to point the bike to the left, and as soon as the back tire slid out to the right, I really got on the beans and was able to correct myself really quickly. But if that's if steering with the rear is a skill that you do not have, then I would recommend you learn it. I don't really have a good way to tell you how to learn it, like a super safe way. Riding off-road just so happens to be the best way to learn how to ride off-road. But you know, maybe go practice sliding the rear in a hayfield near your house or something. You know, as long as you got permission to be out there at least. Kind of get comfortable with the idea of steering with the rear tire a little bit. For me, it's harder to take right-hand corners and slide the rear out to the left than it is for me to slide the rear end out to the right. Mainly, I would say that's just because of how easy it is to still modulate and access the rear brake. So it's kind of like a mental thing. But you know, when the rear end's sliding to the left, the way the bike's turned, you really have to be toe in with your right foot to make sure you're still got good access to cover the rear brake. Whereas if you're sliding the rear end out to the right in a left-hand turn, at least for me, I don't have any issues trying to manipulate the back brake if I needed to. I mean, you're under throttle and you're sliding, so should you need the rear brake? 99% of the time, probably not. Yeah, the crosswind. It's rough today. I I would say it's easier to learn standing up than it is sitting down, but yeah, I overcooked a turn on the way here, and just without thinking about it, second nature. You know, I eased on the back brake a little bit for maybe a second, 2 seconds max, just gently, not trying to lock it up, just scrub just a couple miles an hour, and then when I hit the apex, just roll on the throttle. And I was in a low enough gear to be up in the RPMs enough that I knew the rear end would just slide right out. If you're in really tall gear, while you're scrubbing that speed, you need to downshift a gear. You need to be careful about downshifting and dumping the clutch and having the rear tire skid because of engine braking. But if you time that with getting on the throttle, you know, it's not a real issue, but that could cause you to slide out a little bit, have the rear step out a little bit. But again, as soon as it starts to slide out, if that were to happen, just roll on the throttle and you'll be fine. Hopefully everybody that's far enough south to be able to be riding, now that we're kind of getting into the spring months, is out enjoying themselves and getting some miles in. If you're a fan of the channel for non-T7 content and find yourself watching this video, I do have, what else have I got going on? I do have handlebars in the mail. They should be here possibly today, most likely Monday or Tuesday, for the Royal Enfield Meteor 350. Be getting some slightly taller bars on it, assuming they fit. I ordered factory bars off of the new Honda Dax. I went to a dealership and was looking. I wanted a set of chrome bars for that Meteor, and I wanted them to just be, you know, kind of like mini apes, you know, 6-7 inches of rise to them, whereas the stock bars are probably like 3 inches. Royal Enfield sells a touring bar kit, and that kit comes with new cables. Those handlebars look to be about the same amount of rise, but I'm not sure how they are as far as how wide they are and stuff. So I'm hoping I can make these work. I might have to reroute a couple of cables, and hopefully I can make them fit. So we got that going on. Next week, also got to go next week and get my tags and everything for that bike. And the T7 will need its first service, the first service I've completed on it. The dealer changed the oil on it when I bought it, and I'm at 7,200 miles, and it's due at 8,000. It's a nice barn dominium somebody's built there. So here in the next month or two, depending on how much riding we can get in, I'll need to finally do my own first service on the T7. Still really loving the bike. I'm really glad that I didn't try to sell it. I think I would have been happy if I could have scored a trade for a KTM 690 or Husky 701. For all intents and purposes, real similar bike, just a little lighter weight. But selling it and trying to go with something way smaller for how I tend to use an adventure bike, not trying to single track the thing, at least not on the single track we have down here in the south. It's so tight and rough. I don't know that I would be taking like the CF Moto 450 or something like that into those places anyway. So there's really no sense in trying to downsize the T7. I'm sure you can hang the smaller displacement adventure bikes that are coming to the market. And, you know, the CF Moto and Kawasaki's got something that we're guessing is going to have the Ninja 500 Eliminator engine in it, and I'm sure you can hang those out. They're 40-something horsepower, so they'll be pretty fun. But just having around that 70 horsepower mark like the T7 has, it's just ideal. It's really about like having, as far as the engine, just having a motocross bike or a proper woods bike, 450. You know, power wise, those make a few ponies less. They're probably more in the high 50s to 60 range, whereas this is like middle high 60s. But as far as just the amount of power you have on paper, you really just have a more reliable, you know, longer service interval type engine that feels and performs about like a motocross engine. You know, if somebody would put out a like proper woods 450 or, you know, motocross type 450, not some super detuned, you know, like the new DRZ 4S or the old DRZ 400 type engine. But if you had a proper, you know, 50, 55 horsepower dirt bike with blinkers, lights, horn, and then a small rally fairing and like a 3.5-ish gallon tank, I mean, I feel like that's pretty much what everyone's looking for. The problem is, to get that, you have to spend more than you spend on, say, a T7. And it's not as good on the road and stuff, but it's way better off-road, especially true off-road, not dirt roads. I often am referring to off-road as more kind of like dirt roads, but it's really off pavement. But yeah, no one wants to spend like $13,000-$14,000 to get something like that. I mean, that's kind of what the KTM 690 is. It's just heavier, but that's the idea. You got a big high output single, you got a small rally screen, or you can get for them. You know, just a standard 690 Enduro doesn't have nothing but a front number plate, but you know, that's the idea. It's just the price tag on something like that. Like, no one can build you that. I say no one. The big four and then all the Euro companies can't build you that for like 10 grand. You know, a decade and a half ago, if we would have said collectively, been like, this is what we want, then somebody could have said, yeah, we can build that for that price. We can take a, you know, Yamaha could take a WR 450 and throw lights on it and a small rally tower, and they could have MSRP'd it for 10 grand. Would anybody have paid 10 grand for that 10, 15 years ago? Probably not. It's the same situation as people not wanting to pay 13 or 14 plus for it now. But that's kind of what you get with the T7. And man, it's fun. It's a fun setup to have. It's heavier, than those bikes, obviously, but when you're moving at, you know, these speeds on a dirt road, you know, you don't notice the extra weight that much. Probably not until you're having to pick it up off the ground that you really start to notice it, or if you're trying to muscle it through a single track, having to go 5 miles an hour, and you're obviously gonna notice it then. Wish I could have put a couple people together. It would have been a good day for it, but it was short notice, so everyone either already had plans or maybe didn't even see the post in time. So which, to be honest with you, I don't really have a problem with riding solo. A couple of my closer friends that I ride with often, and you've seen on the channel from time to time, riding with them is pretty much like riding solo, in the sense that, you know, we're not slowing each other up. We can go as fast as we want. If we're in that mood, we can just poke around and explore if we're in that mood. You know, when you have a big group ride, you've got a wide variety of skill sets, and you've got a wide variety of bikes that show up. When I put on a group ride, I try not to discriminate against like bikes. So if you show up on a TW200, you know, bring it on, come on, we're gonna have a good time. But I'm not gonna be able to lead the pack 80 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour on some of these flat dirt road sections, and someone on the TW200 keep up. You know, it doesn't matter how good of a rider they are, the bike only goes like 65 downhill on pavement. So but coming out and riding by yourself, it's nice. I like it. I don't have to worry about running off and leaving somebody. I don't have to worry about somebody running off and leaving me if I'm the one doing the following. Nothing there too crazy to try climbing. But yeah, you can just run your pace. Of course, the downside is if something happens, you're on your own. So you got to be comfortable with being able to deal with whatever comes your way, whether that be a flat tire or, you know, heaven forbid, you wreck and go down and get hurt. You know, whatever equipment you have with you has to be enough. And if it's not enough, you have to be able to make it work. So there is always that aspect of it. For me personally, when I'm out riding like I am today, I'm on, you know, technically I'm just riding public roads. Granted, some of them are back here in the middle of nowhere. It's still just a public road. So for me, I just kind of, I don't do anything special. You know, I've got a phone, and I've got the newest iPhone, so it's got the capability of sending a message via satellite. So even if I'm somewhere where I don't have cell service, hopefully I can get a message out. You know, it's got to be short and sweet. It can't be, you know, a paragraph or something. It could, I suppose, it just take longer to send probably, but you know, you got to be able to get out something quick. So, you know, download your maps offline. That way you can look up where you are without having internet service. And I can look at my map, and I can look at the latitude and longitude of the map, and I can text my wife, help, those numbers, text my father, say the same thing. If it's serious, you can text 911. 911 takes text messages these days. I'm sure sending the message via satellite shouldn't somehow hinder them from receiving it. Or at least I would think not. So as far as injury, you know, I wear a good belt, use as a tourniquet. If something like that happened, it was just super severe, electronic device of some sort to get a message out. And then as far as tools to fix, like if I've got a flat, I run the Tuss 2-track on the rear. I can limp it home because the carcass is super stiff and hard. I could limp the bike home with a flat rear if I'm out on a ride like this. And then as far as the front tire, you know, if worst comes to worst, I just call somebody. I mean, it's not like I'm halfway across the country. You know, as the crow flies, I'm like 25-30 miles away from my house. But you know, you just got to think about that and think about what makes sense for yourself and your skill level, things like that. I would be comfortable riding this bike home if I, you know, dropped it and broke a lever, you know, if I bent the shift lever, or, you know, broke or bent the brake lever and it made it where I couldn't use it. You know, I'm comfortable riding home on the pavement with just one brake. I'd be honest with you, knowing the route that I would be riding, I'd be comfortable riding it, you know, with no brakes. I say that, but you know, if you can downshift, you can slow down, and you know the route, so you know where the turns are, you know where the stop signs are. You know, just stay way back from a car in front of you. And so small things like that would be a non-issue in a scenario like this. But you know, if you're out riding with buddies, you know, one guy's got a few tools here and there, somebody else has got a few tools here and there, somebody else may be carrying a spare tube. You can just fix stuff on the side of the road real quick. You've got extra hands to help you, you know, hold the bike up or get it in a position where you can get a wheel off or something. But riding solo, you've got to figure all that stuff out on yourself. And you know, if I was on a bigger ride, like when I did the Bankhead ride, I had some tools with me that I was carrying that I'm not carrying today. For example, I do have one tool that I keep in the saddlebag on this T7 at all times, and that is a 11mm wrench. The 11mm wrench lets me get the top box off the rear rack, which ensures I can get the seat off and get to the factory toolkit, which isn't much, but you know, it's something. And if I can't fix it with the factory toolkit and that 11mm wrench, and I can't limp it home, then I'll just call a friend, call somebody, and if I have to sit out here half the day waiting on them, then that's just what you deal with. But I'm not saying it's not worth it to put together a dedicated toolkit for your bike and carry it at all times. I'm just saying I don't, at least not when I'm on short little rides near my house like this. Washed a lot of extra gravel up over here on the side. Somebody leveled it out with a tractor or something. The southeast has had some crazy storms the last like 2.5 months. Ridiculous amounts of flooding. We got hail at my house. Nothing crazy, not enough to really damage anything, but we got it. Let me slow down and shut my mouth to cross this one. This creek crossing right here is super slick. It's not as bad over here on the far right, but if you go across the center, we've had some people go down, had somebody spin around 180, just Fred Flintstone in their feet to keep from falling. So always slow down and take that creek crossing very seriously. If you fall in the middle of it, it's solid rock, so it's like falling on concrete. bust the elbow open real good or something. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, weather. I feel like the majority of the country's been seeing crazy weather. California had some wildfire, which I don't know that they're never not experiencing some wildfire on even a, you know, maybe a really small scale year round. But I saw something the other day about another wildfire that was kind of getting out of hand out there. I did not click the link and look into it anymore, so it could have been an older article. But between that and the Midwest having some crazy tornadoes. We had some tornadoes here in North Alabama, come across Mississippi and southern Middle Tennessee, North Alabama, do a ton of damage. The very next weekend, same thing. Watch out, pups. Then we've had that back-to-back weekends. We had crazy amounts of rainfall and high wind with no tornadoes, hail like I mentioned. It's just been a wild couple of months, which is partly why I've had issues getting content out. I haven't been riding because the weather's just crap, and then coming out of the winter time, I'm always in a bit of a funk and have to make a conscientious effort to get out and get going again for the year. Otherwise, I'll just sit around and watch TV and let the bike sit in the garage. Hopefully wherever you're at, you ain't had to deal with, if you have had to deal with the crazy weather, you've been fortunate to not have any severe damage to home or property. And if you're far enough south that you ain't dealing with cold weather still, hopefully you've been able to get out and ride and put some miles down like I'm starting to do now. Trying to get out and enjoy the T7 how it's meant to be driven and ridden, in my opinion. At least by someone my size and stature. I'm not Pole, Teres. Not gonna be out riding this thing like a trials bike. And even if I was big enough and tall enough to throw this thing around like him, I don't have the skill for it, so enjoy it for what it is, for how I can ride it. Got new bridges, and it'd have sucked if they got those new bridges built and then turned around and one of these storms washed them away. Anyway, I'm getting to the end of my route here before I head back home, and I've been rambling on about random crap for probably way too long, so we'll see if we can hit a little dirt road. I don't know if we'll hit a dirt road 100 for you, but we should have a long straightaway coming up. Maybe hit a dirt road 88 for Doc and Marty. think I saw 89, maybe even 90. So anyway, we'll wrap it up here. And if you got absolutely nothing from this video, then maybe you can at least your takeaway be just get out and ride. Enjoy the views, enjoy the countryside. It really is, even though it's just close by my house in North Alabama, as soon as you cross, if you go east you can run into it as well, but as soon as I cross Tennessee, you start getting into these rolling hills, and I guess you're just getting into the kind of the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains a little bit more, and you get these smooth rolling hills. And even though it's just right down the road from me, having lived in that same spot my entire life, it's easy for me to pick up on just the subtle nuanced changes of the terrain. Go 30 miles south of here into North Alabama, around the Tennessee Valley area, if you're going to Google and look on a map. Northwest Alabama, you just don't get these gentle rolling hills. You also don't get as many dirt roads, which is unfortunate, but I digress. So anyway, like the video if you did like the video. If you didn't like the video, don't. It'll be fine. If you like me as a YouTuber, I've got more content coming eventually. And with that, I guess we'll, oh yeah, not only like the video, but, you know, share it. That helps too. Subscribe so you don't miss out on more content. I always forget to say that crap. But it does help the channel. And we will catch y'all in the next one. Ride safe.